In this book, you write that the rare metal cobalt in use in the many the digital device we use today. What is the cobalt used for?
Yeah, cobalt is one of the most important components to rechargeable batteries, the kinds of rechargeable batteries found in most tech devices as well as most electric vehicles. So cobalt is crucial to these batteries because it allows the battery to hold the maximum amount of energy while remaining thermally stable. So what does that mean? That means you don't have to plug in your phone or your car as often and the battery won't catch on fire. That's what cobalt does in rechargeable batteries, and that's why it's so important.
You write that in 2021, the cobalt mine in the Republic of the Congo accounted for 72% of the world's cobalt supply. What kind of place is Congo in terms of cobalt mining?
Yes, and by the way, that percentage has only increased. I think last year it was 76%. So 76% of the world's supply, more than three quarters, was mined in the cobalt in the Congo. What is it like? Well, you have to imagine an environmental and human rights apocalypse. When you go into the cobalt mining provinces in the southeastern part of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the entire landscape has been destroyed and contaminated and polluted. Millions of trees have been chopped down. Mining concessions have taken over thousands upon thousands of acres, hundreds of square miles of territory. Some of these mining concessions are the size of a small city. In fact, the largest mining concession in the Congo is the size of Greater London. So imagine you're walking around the southeastern part of the Congo, and there's a London sized part of the countryside that's been completely chewed up and torn apart, clear cut of trees for mining operations. In addition to all of this surface destruction, these mining companies dump their toxic effluents into the rivers, the streams, the lakes, so the water has been contaminated. The air is brown and hazy. It burns your eyes, it burns your throat. So, really, the picture is that this transition to a green economy, which electric vehicles are a big part of, and our gadget driven lifestyle, is built upon the human rights and environmental destruction of the Congo.
What kind of people are mining cobalt? How do they mine the cobalt?
Cobalt is mined both by heavy machinery that's operated by big mining companies, but also by hundreds of thousands of some of the poorest people on the planet. Women, men, boys, and girls, often families working together, dig for cobalt with rudimentary tools or sometimes just their bare hands. Cobalt is toxic to touch, it is toxic to breathe. People can be up to their armpits in toxic mud and sludge, scrounging at the ground, hacking at the ground, trying to get cobalt out of the dirt and to fill a sack. And if they can fill a sack or two across a 10 to 12-hour workday, again, suffering hazardous injury and toxic exposure, they might earn $1 or two for that day. So it's some of the poorest people in the world scrounging for cobalt by the hundreds of thousands of people and barely earning $1 or two in the day to survive.
You described the danger involved in the cobalt mining. What kind of dangers are there?
Well, as I mentioned, cobalt is toxic to touch and breathe. So everyone who's walking around cobalt mining areas is suffering toxic contamination, toxic exposure. And this leads to lung diseases, respiratory ailments, to cancers, to blood disorders, to thyroid disorders, and the impact on children. And there are thousands of children in these mining areas. The impact on children is particularly hazardous because they're still developing and their bodies are smaller and weaker. And so the level of exposure is all the more hazardous for them. Now, in addition to the toxic nature of cobalt, the mining activity itself is very hazardous. People suffer shattered bones and spines in pit wall collapses. They are buried alive in tunnel collapses. They suffer lacerations, the kinds of injuries that ruin and wreck their lives, quite apart from being killed in many cases. So the work is physically dangerous, It is chemically dangerous. Again, these people are barely earning $1 or $2 a day. And the crucial thing is that mining companies, tech companies, electric vehicle manufacturers don't acknowledge that these people even exist, that they are a part of the supply chain. But the truth is on the ground, spoken by the Congolese people through the pages of Cobalt Red and many other journalistic exposés. The truth is that there are hundreds of thousands of people at the bottom of global tech supply chains.
Who is forcing the cobalt miners into such harsh working conditions? Why can't the Congolese government fix this situation?
Well, poverty is the main driver. People in the Congo, and in particular in the mining provinces of the Congo, barely manage to earn $1 a day. Now, the other driver is the lack of alternatives. So, mining companies have taken over, as I said, hundreds of square miles of that part of the country. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people who lived in villages that used to be on those concessions. Now, these displaced people have almost no other way to survive. Agricultural land is gone. As I mentioned, the rivers and lakes are contaminated, so there's no fish, so people can't earn a living through fishing. So there's almost no other way to survive. So the primary force of coercion is poverty and the lack of an alternative. Now, that said, the Congolese government does bear responsibility for this situation because they do make quite a bit of money on mining royalties and taxes. They sell concessions for billions of dollars, and this money does not find its way back down to the Congolese people. Where it goes, well, only the Congolese elite know where the money ends up. Now, if they were to distribute that money equitably back onto the ground to support the Congolese people, that would help, but it would not solve the problem. The problem is that tech companies and EV companies and mining companies treat the Congolese people as if they're a subhuman workforce. If they suffer injury or death, so be it. If we pay them $1 or less, so be it. And that's just not enough to survive.
There are many descriptions in this book of the mine being fenced off and armed guards roaming the area. Why is there so much like armed security?
Well, there's so much money at stake, and therefore there's a high level of security. Um, the situation in the copper cobalt provinces, which is in the southeast corner of the country, is very different from what you find in the eastern Congo. And it's different because of what's happening in the Eastern Congo. Now, Eastern Congo, following the Rwandan genocide, erupted in violence, and militias coerced the local population to mine electronic minerals that are in that part of the Congo, tantalum, tungsten, gold, tin, and so on. It's a lawless, war-torn frontier. Cobalt became a crucial component to rechargeable batteries much later, 2007, 8, 9, with the explosion of smartphones in particular, and then tablets and laptops, and then electric vehicles. And it was Chinese mining companies that first started exploiting cobalt, and they demanded more security. They didn't want to repeat what was happening in Eastern Congo because, again, there was so much money at stake. So the Congolese army was sent in to provide security, the Republican Guard, and these mining companies also hire their own private security, oftentimes militias, to secure the concessions, to secure their tons and tons of cobalt to ensure it can get exported and sent up the chain.
So you write about how children are forced to work in mining, often for free or very little compensation. Tell us about the reality of child labor you witness in Congo.
Well, there are thousands, probably tens of thousands of children as young as 5 or 6 years old, uh, working, digging, scrounging for cobalt in the Congo. And this is, again, very much a function of poverty. Um, when when a mother and father are only earning $1 or less a day, that's not enough for the family to survive. That's not enough for basic necessities. And the solution for the poorest people in the world, including those in the copper cobalt provinces of the Congo, is to bring the children out into the mine as well, because they can work for the day and maybe earn another 50 cents or $1. And then collectively, the family will earn enough to survive for that day. So it is, again, a poverty driven solution to a family's desperation to bring children into the mining areas. Another part of this, though, which gets back to a failing of the Congolese government, is that schooling is supposed to be free for Congolese children till the age of 18. The Congolese government does not fully fund schools adequately. And so many schools around grade 5 or 6 start charging fees to pay teachers, to buy books, and to keep schools operating. Now, these fees, by the way, to you and I are almost nothing. It's about $5 a month, $6 a month. But for a family that has no income other than what they survive on each day, they can't afford it. So what does that child do? They come out of school at 5th or 6th grade and they come work in the mine. So it all comes down to poverty. It all comes down to desperation and a lack of alternative, but also some failings by the Congolese government to provide adequate funding for schools.
In your book, you criticize giant tech companies for turning a blind eye on the inhumane conditions occurring in Congo. What is your thought on this point?
Well, what's important for us to recognize is all the big tech and EV companies that sell us smartphones and tablets and gadgets and cars make public statements that their supply chains are untainted by human rights abuses and that the mining of battery component metals is done in a sustainable manner. Now, when it comes to the Congo, those statements are not true. The truth is on the ground. When you go to the Congo and see with your own eyes, there's nothing that's sustainable from an environmental standpoint at all about the mining operations. And human rights standards are not being maintained remotely. So when you talk to Congolese people and you see the truth with your own eyes, their voices tell you what the truth is. So my issue is if the companies are going to make these statements, and they make them because they know consumers care, and before we want to upgrade our smartphone or go buy an electric vehicle, we want to know that the batteries and other components have been produced in a sustainable, dignified manner. So they make these statements for a reason. Now, if they're going to make them, but they're untrue, that's the problem. That's the issue. So they are obliged, because ultimately they're creating the demand. They are obliged to ensure that their statements are true. And that means getting on the ground and addressing the issues. That means listening to the voices of the Congolese people. That means investing in the communities whose labor and resources are indispensable to their enormous profits. That means sharing some of those profits with those communities, build some schools, build some public health clinics, expand electrification, support and strengthen the communities whose labor and resources are indispensable to you. And it shouldn't be too much to ask. And certainly these companies are not starved for profits. So really the question should be, why haven't they done it yet? And I think the answer to that question, sadly, is they don't think those people over there are worth the same as our people over here. And that has been the theme of the relationship between the global North and Africa for centuries.